All human behavior is done based on two reasons. It's either to avoid pain or it's to gain pleasure. And if you aren't doing the right things in this moment, if you aren't taking the actions that you need to take to go to where you want to go, then it's because you associate pain with the wrong things and pleasure with the wrong things. And generally speaking, the longer you can extend the time horizon on what you associate pain with and what you associate pleasure with, the better life gets. I used to have a client who he would be scared to approach women, even though he was charismatic, he was a attractive looking individual. But rather than using that to really fix the main thing that was still missing in his life, he would associate so much pain with rejection and with not being accepted by women that he thought were interesting, that he just avoided approaching them altogether. Now, the entire interesting thing with all of this is that, first of all, he was a great candidate. On paper, he had great attributes, right? Like he was a person that was solid, but the belief structure that he had around himself was formed because of previous associations with painful moments where he was rejected, and that caused him to not take any actions that actually served his long-term growth. Now, the moment that he got clear on why he's taking the actions, why he took the actions he was taking, and he drew out the time horizon on that, he got clear on, okay, what if I keep doing this another year, another 3 years, another 5 years, another 10 years, the rest of my life? Then it becomes very easy to look to what you need to do to actually make that change and then to actually make that change. Because then it's no longer about the pain of being rejected today, it's the pain of living a lonely life for eternity, for the rest of your existence, at least in this vessel. Most people live in a situation where they aren't really happy with their circumstances, but they're also not in enough pain to actually make the change. That's why they don't change. That's why you see so many people who hit rock bottom become very successful, because they've had to experience such low points in their life to where they could actually throw it around. And it was the same for me. Obviously, I don't want to say, oh, my lower point was lower or anything like that. It's just you have to experience so much pain at one point that you're like, hey, I have to change this. And then the flip side of that is once you start to reach these very high levels of peak experiences and you meet other people that live on an entirely different planet from you, even though they do live on the same planet, you start to see what is possible. And then you start to see the gap between where you are, and you can create pain to actually chase that pleasure, to actually get to that next level. And obviously you want to kind of moderate that, where you don't want to live in agony because you don't have more millions or whatever, right? Because that is all an illusion in the first place. But for me, whenever I am not operating at 100%, it is painfully obvious to me, because I have people around me that do, have 8-figure net worths, 9-figure net worths, and I see them flying private jets. I see them having, cars that are matching their companies and that have names that match their companies, and then they have all white jets and all white clothing and then an all white car to match that. Like, they play with life essentially, whereas other people, they're barely getting by. They're literally playing a entirely different game of wants instead of needs. And then also there's an entire internal component to that of, hey, I've performed at this level for a year, and now, lately I've been very social. I've had the craziest social life that I've had in my life. And not to say that I'm partying or going out, whatever. It's more like a healthy thing of, we meet at the gym, we go out for dinner, things like that. And that is great and all, but at the same time, I want to just stay locked in, and I want to push this way further. And for that, there's a certain level of isolation that I need to go through. That's why I'm traveling next week. And so get very clear on all of the different pain points, your hell of, hey, where do I not want to end up no matter what? Get clear on your destined future of, hey, if I keep doing the exact same things that I have been doing for another year, another 3 years, another 5 years, the rest of my life, how will my life end up? And then what's your paradise? If everything is 10 out of 10, if relationships, if how I feel, if my habits, if my character, if my lifestyle, everything is 10 out of 10, what does that look like? And then when you have these 3 kind of paths, you can get clear on these every single day. Repeat them to you. Have a vision board. That's the entire point of a vision board. It's to see where you are potentially, where you are going if you keep doing the right things. But then the flip side of that is just as important, where you have a very clear picture of, hey, this is how I'll end up if I'm not changing things. It doesn't have to be super visualized, but you have to be aware of this. And then what you can do when you have all of this is you can create a 2.0 self or 10.0 self, and you can create your old self. You can get clear on, hey, my old self, he sleeps in, he taps snooze 10 times. You know, my old self, he goes to the gym sporadically. My old self eats junk food 3 times a week. And then you can flip that with your new self. My new self, he hears the alarm and he gets up every single day no matter how he feels. My 10.0 self hits the gym consistently, follows his training plan to a T, and then eats the right macronutrients with maybe just 1 cheat meal a week, or whatever. It doesn't have to be perfect all at once, but you have to set new standards for yourself, because we never reach our goals. We always fall back on our standards. So set standards for yourself that are so far ahead of you, or ahead of the average person, that it would be unreasonable for you not to get to where you need to go. That's the only real differentiator. It's that people who operate at a certain level of success, they have a ridiculous level of habits or a different level of playing the game. So get crystal clear on all of this. It has completely changed my own life. It has completely changed the lives of most of my clients. Hope this video is helpful, and I'll see you tomorrow.